Hey.
Hi.
How are you, Misha?
Good.
Come on in.
You?
I'm Rajiv. Still. Great to meet you,
Yeah,
IRL. So
great
welcome
to
to
meet
our,
you.
studio here.
This is so fun. This is so retro.
I'm
I
so
love
glad.
it.
Yeah, I want to know your reaction.
Yeah, I mean, the giant ping pong table is definitely like a thing.
It's like the first thing I think we're meant to notice.
Yeah, I'm like,
so.
wait, are we playing?
Oh yeah.
Or are we talking?
Oh yeah. We're gonna play, but we're gonna start over at the booth, and then we'll make our way over to play ping pong.
Cool.
If that's
Sounds
cool
good.
with you.
Yes, that is definitely
I'm so
cool.
glad. Okay.
We could start with ping pong.
We could just jump in and
Yeah.
never make it to the booth.
Exactly.
So, like a great date. What does that mean? Okay. We'll make our way over to the booth.
Great.
Okay. You are podcasts.
That is really funny to me because I am in a perpetual battle with my siblings.
Okay.
Who have a problem with my Instagram distinction that
It just
says
reads podcast.
It says Misha Euceph podcast.
To me, it read like a verb. Like you're telling people to podcast. I read it and I was like, it just says podcast. And I'm like, okay, is she telling me to podcast?
Yeah, I think that they read it as a noun and they're like, this is a category. And are you a podcast or are you a person? And I was like, dude, they don't give me any options. I can't say podcast producer. I can't say podcast host. The only category in podcast is podcast. So
you're a podcast.
I'm a podcast. I am podcast. It's like what Salvador Dali said, right? Like, I don't do drugs, I am drugs.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg, the comedian, once said, I used to do a lot of drugs. I still do, but I used to too. It kills me. That is one of the greatest lines. Rest in peace, Mitch Hedberg. So I didn't know Salvador Dali said that. He is.
I mean, he might not have.
He might not. He might have written
Yeah.
it. Gandhi technically never said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world."
Oh, didn't he?
He was being quoted or something, or somebody was summing it up. But it was like a question answer thing, and they sort of felt like
Yeah.
it played better if they attributed it to him.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
The fake attribution?
Yeah.
I mean, I think no quote is really, like, I had a pretty big crisis of conscience because there were things being quoted from the podcast, from Tell Them I Am.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I didn't actually write that line.
Oh.
Like, that line was like by, our creative director or our editor or sometimes the executive producer, because we're all in the script. And they're all given
They're all podcast.
They're all podcast. They're given writing credit in the
Right.
credits of every episode, which is unusual in podcasts, by the way, to get writing credits if you're not the host.
Yeah.
But I felt that was important.
That was your decision?
That was my decision.
Oh, wow. You're quite generous.
I know.
Look at you.
It's
just
incredible.
Sharing the wealth.
Just,
I'm telling you.
just basic equity,
That's what's
But I did that, and then you're still being quoted because you're the person saying the lines.
Sure.
And so I was like, do I like retweet this? And because if I retweet it seems like I have said it, and that
Right.
feels kind of weird.
Well, do you say it out loud before you tweet it to say, like you actually physically said it?
I mean, I did say it in the podcast.
Right.
I said
According
it
to them.
Yeah. It sounded like it came out of me.
Do they get upset when your executive producer be like, dude, I said that?
No,
you're
we
one
had a whole
team.
conversation about
Okay.
it. Yeah, and they were like, no, we're totally fine with it. Like when we're helping you write, like that's the assumption that at some point it'll be quoted or whatever.
Right.
But it's still, you just feel like, oh, I didn't, if you remember that you didn't say it,
Yeah.
or you didn't write it,
I didn't
it
say
feels,
that.
and it's the sentiment that was coming from me. Like it was like we're in a group and I'm saying something and they kind of write it down in their own way.
Okay.
And the way they said it is better than the way I said it out loud,
Yeah.
So we picked that way of saying it. Have you had anyone write comedy lines for you?
I'm fully formed. I woke up like this, so everything I say the first time is 100% ekdam perfect.
Yeah.
I can't miss.
Yeah, and
So,
no one has ever helped
can't
you.
improve perfection.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
You're solo.
I don't know how to not be perfect. Getting back to this notion of podcast, if you
Yeah.
had to sum yourself up in one word, do you think of yourself as a podcaster or a storyteller?
I think I'm a writer first.
Oh.
I'm a writer first, and then my medium of choice or my first love as a medium is podcasting.
Okay.
But I can see that writing kind of translating into, writing nonfiction or writing fiction or writing humor. Like I'm writing op-eds or whatever. And I think podcasting for me has just been really fun because it's something that has developed as I have grown in my career. So from the beginning of my professional life was the beginning of the industry,
Oh.
which is kind of a unique position to be in, you know?
What year is that?
Some people would say 2013, some people would say
I
2014.
was going to say 2013.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Serial. When Serial came out, I think 2014, 2015. So about a year and a half before that, when This American Life started to put out their show in podcast form on your iPhone, and Apple decided to make the podcast app permanent to your phone, so you can't delete it.
Right.
And I think those
Like
things kind of
clock.
all coincided. Yeah, like the clock.
Like the clock.
Which, do you ever feel compelled to delete
the
the clock?
Like, just screw time. Like, I'm not going to be bound by this
By
world.
this, yeah.
Yeah, by man-made time.
Yeah, the weather app. I cannot have the weather.
I'm not living it. That is, I was in New York once and it started to rain. And I checked my phone to make sure it was raining. Like, what the hell? Oh, is your head wet? Like, that's the dominion that Apple has over me, where I'm like,
Yeah.
but is it raining? Yeah, you go get an umbrella, you jackass. Your head's
Do you
wet.
think any part of you was like, oh, is it going to continue raining?
No, I had no. There was no thought. But thank you for trying to help me out.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to project the future in time.
Yeah, you were like, is it worth it for me to get an umbrella,
Right.
or should I just duck and cover
Will
for a
it be
little
raining
bit?
in 45 minutes?
Yeah, or even next 30 seconds.
Yeah, because 45 minutes is a long time to be in the rain. Because you have a theory that if you came here after the age of 12, you still have your accent, native accent?
Yeah, so I developed this theory based on myself.
I like that. That's a good place to start.
Sample size of 1 to begin. It was a hypothesis. My sister and I moved here. Well, my whole family moved here, and my sister and I.
I was going to say, that's pretty rebellious.
Yeah, we were like, Mom, Dad, we're
Peace.
done. We're done with Pakistan. We're moving. My whole family moved here in 2003 in November, and I was 11 at the time, 11 and a half, and my sister was 8.
Wait, I thought people stopped saying half at 10. I said 9 and a half, and then
So
I
that's
turned
your
10.
theory?
That is my theory.
I thought we were
don't know
talking
what.
about my theory
Well,
right now.
you know. Anyway, so you were 11 and a half, which I've never heard anybody say.
Yeah, I was 11 and a half because for the longest time I was rounding up and saying I was 12.
Okay.
And my family took issue with this, and they were like,
Oh.
you have been lying. Or like, do you have memory loss? Like, you were 11, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I was calculating my age. Basically, there was an article about me and they got my age wrong, and I was like, why did they get this wrong? Like, I kept saying I'm, 27 at the time, 28
Right.
now. And my dad was reading and he's like, it's because you say you're 12 when you move here, and they're calculating the number of years.
Right.
And so it doesn't make sense that you're, 27. It makes sense that you're like 26 or whatever.
Right.
So anyway, so now I
There was
make
no
a
year
point.
zero.
Yeah, I make a point.
Right. That you were
saying
11 and a half. So that's your
exactly.
compromise with your family. Because
Yes.
they kept saying you were 11, you were saying you were 12, so you know what?
Yeah, and I wasn't 11.
You were, that's really funny because 11 and a half is very much in the realm of 11.
Yeah.
But according to, I don't know in Pakistan, but in India, they measure the Independence Day. Like they say it's the 70th year or whatever, and it's really the 69th. But going to
do
the
that,
70th.
really?
They're like, oh, it's the, independence is what, 1947?
Yeah.
Right, 14th and 15th.
Don't ask me to do math.
Okay, my dad will do it
Yeah,
in Hindi.
yes.
And that's what it is. They add a year. So, but that's why Indians always say, or South Asians
Because you're
always
going
say,
into
yeah,
your whatever year. Oh, I hate
which
that.
kills you when you're single, because parents will always
Yeah.
be like, you are 27, and it's convenient for them to say
Yeah.
that because you're still 26.
Yeah,
But
but
it
you're
serves
in your
them.
27th year.
But if you want to go drive and you're 15, they're not going to be like, well, you're 16.
Yeah.
That should work.
Or you want booze, you can't be
Right.
like, oh, well.
Well, I'm
technically
20 and a
I'm
half.
in my 21st year.
My 21st year. I'm in my 20s.
Yeah, I have the life experience necessary
Close
for
enough.
this. Yeah.
I think that 21 is the drinking age because that's when we stop growing.
I think
Physically.
we stop growing at
Physically.
21?
That's what they say on average. Well, the last people stop growing at 21.
Aren't there guys who like just get way taller at
I don't
21
think
or
after
whatever?
21.
Really?
I think that's it. That's it. And then mentally,
Men
you
in
stop
my life
growing
are
at-
holding out hope still.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why there are
'Cause you're what,
20-year-old
you're
men in my life.
You're what, 5'7"?
I know. I'm 5'4".
Really?
Barely.
What, did you
5'3"
have
and 3/4.
heels?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say because you seem
Yeah.
tall.
No.
But that's your
This is
personality. It is. When I get off stage, people are always like, "You're so short. You
Yeah.
seem so."
It's shocking.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
It's underwhelming. People are just like, I thought you'd be taller.
You know, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, that a lot of men I see on TV are actually much shorter than you than the average man, I think, in America, and also than they look on TV. And I was like, is that correlated? Like, are men who are shorter, are they more apt to be on TV?
Like horse jockeys. They're all short. They have to be short.
Oh, but they physically have to be short.
They have to be short. Yeah. Actors don't have to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if they read better on camera.
Yeah.
Did you see Tenet?
Personalities? No.
It's not good.
Okay.
So it did remind me though, when I was watching it with my wife, Hersha, people they look very long and tall in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, people
Why
who
is
are
that?
tall, I don't know, it's just the way it's shot. I don't know if the actors are actually tall, so we should look this up. But I was like, gosh, tall people just look better. They just do.
On screen?
Always.
I think when I moved here as an immigrant, there was a sense of like, oh, I'm not gonna get the joke, you know, or I'm gonna miss out, I'm not gonna understand. And so, or like, I don't know how like a table is set the right way. So I would be watching other people and like, you know, imitating.
Most people still don't know that.
I just learned yesterday.
You learned how, like the 12 place
The actual proper way, maybe not yesterday, maybe 2 days ago.
Okay.
July 3rd.
Day and a half.
Yeah.
Take a break, we'll be right back.
I can't believe this is gonna be a running thing. My friend was asking me to help set the table, and I just was like, I'm gonna admit.
I'm gonna YouTube it.
I don't know how to do this. Can you tell me?
Okay.
And she was like, yeah, like this fork here, this there, and like this is how you put the plates, and the spoon goes on top and whatever. But I think all of it goes back to being an immigrant, and for the longest time I was actually just trying to fit in and understand and imitate, and you become kind of a social chameleon where you're like, okay, yeah, I don't know that Justin Timberlake song, but like I can lip sync it really well.
Sure.
Or I can laugh at that joke that I have no idea what that referenced.
And could you fake laugh so people thought you were real laughing?
Yeah.
That's pretty difficult to do.
Yeah, you just kind of...
You just fake it. So women would be better at it than men, I guess.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know.
Practice.
More practice faking, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That's true.
Would you say you've lived through a lot of adversity?
That's one of the questions I like to ask people.
Really?
Yeah, that's funny. I actually haven't asked it yet, so you'll be the first one. The way I ask it is, what's the craziest thing you've seen? And the unpacking of that question is like, do you feel like you've seen some shit? Because I don't feel like I'm one of those people. I feel like I'm pretty sheltered. I haven't really seen that many crazy things in my life.
Yeah.
I've traveled a lot, but I don't think I'm super experienced or exposed to. When people, the way they came up, I'm like, wow, you saw a lot, or went through a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I did.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. I mean, like even just moving here from another country, right? And like growing up in Pakistan, like this is gonna get really dark really quickly, but I feel like there's a lot of like just sexual assault and sexual repression that is happening at a very, very basic level in like normal society. So like women getting groped or like little children getting groped or whatever by like the ice cream man. Like those things are pretty common, and it becomes so normalized that you just learn how to avoid it, right? And you learn how to read people in a certain way. But those aren't things that you should have to learn or know at all. So I think even starting at that age and like living in a society, growing up, upper middle class and pretty sheltered in Pakistan and still being aware of my surroundings in that way, I think that was difficult and trauma. I mean, that's some shit that qualifies.
Yeah, I would say so. Was it that you couldn't go walking by yourself at night, or you shouldn't?
I mean, I definitely could not at 11 and a half.
Well, not 11 and a half, maybe. Yeah, that's probably. Well, wait, but you've gone back to visit.
Only once.
Okay.
In 2008.
Okay.
So a long time ago.
That is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my goals in the next year is to go back for a longer trip and kind of just spend some time in Pakistan.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I'm trying to do the math. How old you were?
When I was in 2008?
Yeah.
Somewhere around 16.
And a half. Yeah, somewhere around that. So that's cool. Okay. And you went back, and you still felt like you couldn't go walk around by yourself?
No. I mean, I did walk around by myself a little bit more during the daytime, but I definitely had friends around and family friends around. I was staying with a family friend, and I think as a woman, you cover up a little bit, you can't like wear short. I couldn't really wear what I'm wearing right now either.
Anywhere in Pakistan?
In
Like in the
like
city,
just this
maybe.
in the city, in the streets. Like if you're like out in like whatever you call downtown, you don't, or like if you're like in a taxi or whatever, you don't want to dress a certain way. But no, of course, people's houses and like if you're at a restaurant, you can wear whatever.
Sure.
If you're driving somewhere in your own car, you have nothing to worry about.
Okay.
And there is Pakistan is pretty liberal, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's becoming more and more conservative over time, but traditionally it has been a liberal, kind of secular country, not very religious in its like day to day.
Which is so ironic.
Yeah.
Just the way that India and Pakistan were created, you would
Yeah.
think that they would have gone like super one, which they, like to your point, they kind of are now.
Yeah.
But they weren't historically.
I think that's like some geopolitical stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's like more post 9/11 and like, you know, there was Zia-ul-Haq who was the military dictator who took over from Bhutto and like, because Bhutto was like kind of taking the country towards a very liberal direction and super like socialism and, you know, culturally it was super secular, not very religious. And I think Zia-ul-Haq took power and he started to require more policies that are similar to like policies in Iran, you know?
Oh, right,
like
okay.
public coverings for women and certain expectations and just like, you know, when you're in power, you get to dictate the culture to some extent.
Oh, of course. I mean, even here.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you're on TV more than anyone else. But with Bhutto and people like that, that's what always shocked me. And I did a whole solo show about politics. And it was like the fact that Pakistan had a woman leader so long ago in the United States still hasn't.
Yeah.
I've never been able to explain that.
I mean, I can't either. I think about it all the time. I was thinking about this. I was traveling around the whole country over the last 2 months.
This country.
The United States,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, right.
And we drove through places like Tennessee and North Carolina and Montana and spent some time there, my producer and I felt so at home with so many different kinds of people. And I was kind of surprised. I was like, what is it about our country that makes it hard for us to elect a woman? And I think it's because only a very certain kind of woman has run for office or has been given permission to run for office. Whereas like when it comes to men, we've had more populist candidates, you know, or like more like middle class candidates. We've had like the women who have been in power in American politics have been highly educated.
They're really top shelf.
Yeah, they're very refined. And I think that like, I don't know if that aesthetic speaks to the whole country, and I don't know if maybe that's been the issue. I mean, I think sexism is to blame largely, but
Well, that's obvious.
Yeah.
But I think that, well, and also the president of the United States occupies 4 different roles. Like he's the head of state, the head of government, blah, blah, blah. So in other countries, sometimes you can be the head of a party and that party comes to power and then you just happen to be now the leader of the party, the leader of the country. Whereas in the United States, you're directly elected by the people. So it's much harder. The US presidency as a head of state and not just a figurehead is one of the most powerful positions in the world. Not just because it's the United States, but of that country. So I think that's
and
part
also
of it.
that question of that, like you're also commander in chief,
Right,
right?
that's
I think that
exactly
complicates
right.
things a lot because I think
Exactly
there's
right.
this idea that in order to be commander in chief, you must be physically strong. And I think as a woman, at least in this country, you're assumed to be physically not strong enough. So I think that all plays into the sexism part of
Sure.
it. But I do think aesthetic, I was surprised by it, and I didn't have this realization until I was traveling, that aesthetic actually plays into it, and the women who are making it in politics are making it through very traditional establishment channels. And I think we haven't seen like a George Bush candidate as a woman.
Well, Sarah Palin. She was like a folksy, I'm a hockey mom from Alaska and lipstick
she's
pulled
a little too
tipple,
folksy.
whatever. Yeah, but that's she was like the Trump before Trump was Trump. I mean, because she was that like that. But you're right, she was coming up as a VP. She wasn't running, you know, as like a presidential candidate at the time where she had her moment.
Well, and I think that she didn't have enough credibility either, right? Because I would say she's one of the reasons like that John McCain's campaign was signed.
Oh, totally. I lost all respect for him when he picked her as his VP. And George W. Bush was dumb for a smart person. Sarah Palin's dumb for a dumb person.
I would agree.
That's the difference.
I would agree.
Because with George Bush, you're like, wow, you should know that. But
Yeah.
like, do I know that? But like, she didn't know like how many states there were.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, wow.
Yeah,
like,
and you have comments
everybody
like,
knows
I
that.
can see Russia from my house or whatever, right? Like, that's like, okay, well, like, I don't know if I can see you in one of the most powerful offices in the land.
Right.
Like, I can't trust you.
No, you don't know anything.
Yeah. I always felt like she was running for, not actually for office, but for fame.
Oh yeah, totally. Just
Yeah.
to get on TV.
Yeah, and then be able to like write a book and do a tour and
Or at
make
least
some
read
money
a
off
book.
of it. And if you look at it, like even for a Trump type of candidate to come through, for a man who's that like kind of all over the place, for lack of a better word.
Well, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time for someone like that without any like political background, without the proper endorsements and whatnot.
Do you know what it is?
What?
So he is the debate about Trump, whether he's smart or dumb and all that stuff. I think he's just pure id. I don't think there is the brain part of it. It's just he's pure id. I do think that strategically he waited for America to get trashy enough to be able to run. Like he's been wanting to run since the 80s, and I think he was looking at the defense, just going, not this one, not this one, not this one, and then finally you're like, wow, these people
We're
are
here.
really dumb. And he's the Joker, right? So he looked at Gotham and he was just like, all right, now people are stupid enough. And I
don't know. I don't think
that's
that's what it was.
No?
I don't think that's what it was. I think people were never stupid enough. I think people still are not that stupid. This is my hot take, having traveled
Let's
the
have
country.
it. No, please.
But I think that what happened is he was waiting for people to feel isolated enough and angry enough. And I think that people and feel like, these immigrants are coming and like taking everything from them. And I think that he tapped into that anger. And when people are that angry, what appeals to them is not refined language. It's not education and credibility. It's saying things in really simple terms, saying things that we're all thinking, right?
Right.
I mean, not we, but like
Right.
they are
Well, I
all
mean, I'm mad at
thinking.
you. You have a podcast before I do, and I was born and raised here. So, yeah, these immigrants are taking our jobs.
I know, and I have a whole new goal where I'm like, I think immigrants should be allowed to run for president. I think natural born
that's
citizens
interesting.
should be allowed to run for president.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't
think-
know how I feel about that. I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Let me present a scenario.
Let's have it. Yeah.
Yeah, if someone who was born in, I don't know, Canada, right, or Japan, or
Like Ted
whatever.
Cruz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Ted Cruz.
And then McCain was born in like not Japan, but
but
Philippines. I
somewhere,
think.
somewhere overseas. And so let's say someone is born somewhere else, and maybe both their parents are not citizens, right? Because you're automatically a citizen. They come here at the age of 1 or 0.5, and they 6 months old,
Nice.
and they become a naturalized citizen,
Uh-huh.
and they live here their entire life,
Okay.
40 years.
But that's not what you're talking
45
about.
years.
You're talking about someone like you running for president, not a
That
6-month-old.
too. But let's just
Okay.
entertain that.
Sure,
extreme
let's start with the
scenario,
extreme
right?
scenario. Sure.
Do you really think that person is less qualified to run for president than someone who was born in the U.S., moves somewhere else at a formative age, comes back to the U.S., lives here only for 14 years, the minimum
the
qualification
minimum,
criteria, and then runs for office?
No, I don't think that, because I'm not going to hit you with semantics like, well, you could drink. Some 15-year-olds are probably ready to drink, and some 40-year-olds probably are not ready to drink. They never should, but we, got to draw a line in the sand somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hit you with that argument. I'd have to think about it. I mean, I think it's more, because in that case, the person has experience. So someone like you, you're old enough to have remembered Pakistan, so you're bringing that to the table, so to speak. Because you have that cut off.
You mean all my ISIS education?
all the madrasa education, like
Yeah.
immigration, Sharia law,
Yeah.
which
I'm bringing the Sharia law.
Yeah,
for
that's
you
what I
guys.
think.
By
That-
myself.
By yourself, like that's a big load to carry. That's hard. Good for you. That's really impressive. I do to some extent feel like freedom is the opposite of happiness, though. I think you give people too much freedom, then they're actually miserable. I'm a little bit more for a little bit more authoritarianism. And they just need to be my rules.
Wait. So this is relating to the president thing or the
I think it's
access
related
thing? Where
to
is
like
it going?
Sharia law and that kind of like. There's something to be said for like a strong person kind of telling you what to do. Like I'm on board with that to an extent.
I don't know.
We got to play ping pong.
Okay.
You want to play ping pong?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. In what ways are you tough to live with? Like someone who has lived with you, a roommate, whatever else, be like, wow, that Misha. Like, what is it they would complain about, you think?
Oh, God. Sometimes I listen to the same song over and over and over and over again.
Interesting.
Like on repeat for days.
Like, give me an example of a song that was like that.
So you know that song New Mexico by Bobby Charles?
Yeah.
So I've been listening to that song non-stop for the last 2 weeks.
So just not even on headphones. You just will like, you know what?
Well, I mean, I have nice speakers in my house because I make podcasts.
Well, that does make sense. I guess you would know sound. Essential voices, people that you read, listen to, you go, man, I cannot miss this person every week, or a column you read.
Nobody that I revere that much that I would always go back to them.
Okay.
And I kind of like that about myself.
Okay.
Where no one is so infallible that I'll be like, oh, your opinion is the opinion I trust.
Okay.
We're doing,
That was really good.
I know.
So the idea is really just to see how long we can keep it going back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we stop talking?
No, but I don't want to say that because then that becomes the focus. But
I know, but I'm now
we gotta do it.
Yeah.
See, that makes it collaborative, not competitive. Because we're playing, it's like
Yeah.
then we're gonna focus on beating each other.
Yeah, we're trying to
That's
just
what
keep
we're trying to
evolving. Yeah.
There you go. Do you feel a certain way as you move through the world? Like I feel funny, I feel light because I'm pretty, I don't weigh a lot. Is there a certain way that you feel as you go through the world? Like is there a trait that you
Yeah,
you're
I
not
feel like a
uncomfortable
6'5" white man.
how does
I
that
have
feel?
that entitlement.
Yeah.
Feels amazing.
Maybe you do feel that way.
I do?
I don't
Do
know.
I feel that way to you?
I mean, you have a very big personality.
Oh, thank you.
You're very much like non-apologetic, like here I am. I don't have an essential voice that I have to read every week. Maybe that,
I really honestly feel that way. I feel like I'm a white dude. And I think it didn't hit me until I was much older and I was like, wait, I'm not asking for more pay for a job because that's what someone told me to do. It's because I do think I deserve double what you offered.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's not scary because I'm like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? You're gonna say no?
Sure.
But I don't know, I think part of it came from my dad because I think he raised me to have that sense. He was like, think about why white men drive big trucks because they think that they deserve to occupy that much space on the road. And he's like, why can't you drive a big truck? Not like, why can't you drive a big truck? But why not?
Right. So do you drive a big truck?
No.
No, we sent an Uber.
I drive a little Subaru.
Do you want to drive a big truck? Or do you feel like you don't need to?
Sometimes, but I don't feel like I need to. I feel like I'm balancing that idea of that entitlement of a 6'5" white man named Chad with this idea that privilege is occupying more space than is allotted for one person reasonably,
Oh, that is a good definition of privilege.
Right? Did it myself.
Was it you or your executive producer?
I came up with this.
Say that again.
Me. Privilege is occupying more space than is reasonably allotted for one person.
It's like a racket drop.
Yeah, we're done.
Which South Asian project has not happened that should happen?
Oh my gosh, so many.
So many.
So many.
Well, what comes to mind?
I think the thing that comes to mind is we're not tapping into our own literature and our own wells of cultural inspiration to make stuff. We're just making this immigrant 101 story over and over and over again. And I'm kind of tired of that,
Sure.
I came here from Pakistan and blah, 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 but okay, we know there's a lot of us who are new immigrants, but what about an animated series that is rooted in one of our folk tales?
Sure.
That.
Like something called Aladdin or something.
Yeah, but like made by us.
Right,
You know,
right.
I could maybe.
No, I hear
off
you.
the wall.
I totally feel you. So like dipping back into the well.
Yeah.
What would it mean to pull a Misha?
I don't know. I think maybe it goes back to that like the 6'5" white man guy to like someone's like, or honestly, I compliment myself a lot.
You compliment yourself a lot?
Yeah.
Like with an I, not an E. Like you mean like you give yourself.
I give myself
big ups.
compliments. If I'm not getting enough compliments in a situation, I'll just start doing it.
You'd be like, you know what, y'all missed this, and that was pretty dope. What I just like that, like that kind of
like
thing.
guys, I look so hot today.
Yeah,
like nobody said I look
y'all,
good.
why y'all sleeping on this?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that way as a comedian. Sometimes I'll say that to the crowd. I'm like, if I'm not getting what I feel like I should get, I'm like,
like a laugh?
yeah, I'm just going, I'm killing, you're bombing. You guys are bombing. You should be laughing. What is wrong with you? This is hilarious.
What's the reaction you get when you do that?
Then people laugh because that's a ridiculous thing to say.
What's
ridiculous.
the least self-aware thing you've ever witnessed?
Myself do or someone else do?
Someone else.
What's yours? Do you have an answer to that?
Are you trying to flip it back on me?
Yeah, well, I don't have an immediate answer, so
Yeah, I
figured.
do. I used to live with somebody who used to open up cabinets and doors in the house and never close them.
That's a bizarre.
I would go closing doors after him. Literally.
Which is so weird because you're such a door opener for so many people. That have to feel totally backwards
Responsible
for you.
closing doors
That is-
because you don't want anyone to hit their head on the door.
Especially when you're a 6'5" white man like you. Folks, Misha Euceph, you have been an absolute pleasure to talk to.
Thank you, Rajiv.
This
Thank
was
you for having
right.
me.
I feel like we just got started. I feel like we could have
Yeah.
done this for like 3 hours. So
Well, we can.
we can. I know. Someday. I don't know if
Thank
you want to
you.
say anything to the camera. Do you want to projects? Where do we find you? All that
Yeah,
stuff.
you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @MUseph and on Apple and Spotify with all of my different podcasts.